So as you were saying, we are now being joined by Kayla Popuchet. She is an political analyst. Hello, Kayla. Welcome to United States Decides.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course, it's our pleasure. And we've been analyzing this election night. We've been going over results, but we're also using this opportunity to really understand and try to get an idea of what is the U.S. political life, where is it at, what are the problems and main concerns that the population are going through, and how is this two-party system in some cases or in most cases, not being able to really give way to a lot of the political demands that the people have. So I wanted to ask you, a lot has been said in all these campaigns about women, the women vote, and who was going to win it. It was like something that was up for grabs. I wanted to ask your opinion on this matter.
Yeah, I think that the Democratic Party has been trying to manipulate, and they've long been using the right to have an abortion as kind of like a carrot stick for women across the United States, saying that, oh, we're the only party that actually cares about women because we want to give you the right to have an abortion. The Republican Party, they want to take away your right to abortion. In fact, they also cite that Donald Trump had put in the Barrett. She's one of the Supreme Court justices who ended up being one of the crucial votes that turned down Roe versus Wade, which gave the federal protection for women to access abortion. So they'll use this as a carrot stick to try to paint themselves as the party of women. But the truth is that neither of them are party of women. And while the Republicans, sure, they want to limit the women's rights to access abortion by whatever may be their conservative beliefs or their religious beliefs, that by no means are the Democratic Party in favor of women. The women are not like, some separate entity from men. We also are affected by the economy. We also are affected by the lack of transportation, that our streets are not as safe, that we're also being susceptible to housing fragility and possibly living on the street. We're also the ones who are seeing the decline of our transportation system. We're also the ones that are seeing our kids and our siblings and our young ones around our families that are being sent to school and being brainwashed with, social conservative or social cultural issues, as well as, just blatantly not having secure homes to come to. So the women's question is not something that's completely separate from the men. We're also affected by the economy, and the Democrats have been using abortion as if that's the beginning and the end of women's rights. When women don't have the right to motherhood, women don't have the right to a secure life, women don't have the right to access health care. So it's not just one thing. And I think that the Democrats, they've been trying to manipulate it, and it's a very guilt way of manipulation, as well as people who do support the Democrats, to say that, well, if you support the Republicans, then you're anti-woman. But both of these parties are anti-woman. None of the capitalistic parties are supportive of women.
Good evening, Kayla. Thank you for staying up late to join us. We really appreciate it here in Caracas. Kayla, you've been involved in some new political organizing. I think the conventional left has turned its back on blue-collar America, on what many call Trump country. We have a slogan, F Trump, but not F Trump country. There's so many good, solid Americans who, through struggle, we can win them over to a new worldview. Kayla, tell us about this innovative organizing that you've done with the American Communist Party. What is the vision for the transformation of what you all call occupied America?
Yeah, I'm glad you're talking about that, because I actually was just on TeleSUR Español, kind of talking a little bit about what we believe in. So, as the other announcer was saying, that there's like 2/3 of the country right now actually aren't going to be voting. And so, while some of that population may include felons who aren't allowed to vote, or maybe minors, a lot of those people are just regular people like me, who is not voting in this election because I'm not going to participate in either of this sham of a system. There are a lot of people who have been forgotten, and even also the Trump country and people who do support Donald Trump have been, like I said, mentioned earlier, kind of guilted out as to seem like they're anti their other fellow American. And that's what both of these parties, but especially the Democratic Party or the traditional left, have tried to do, is to really further divide American people as more of a moralistic thing. If you're voting for Trump, then you hate XY minority of group. And if you're voting for them, you love the Democrats, then you love XY minority group, really trying to tear us apart and demonize these Republican base. I was actually looking earlier today to see like some of the exit polls of the issues of where certain voters were coming from. And it did look like majority of the main issues that those who voted for Harris were social issues, while as 51 from the last time I checked for those who voted for Trump were about the economy. And that's the basic thing. That is, we're regular people. We're worried about whether we're going to be putting over a roof over our heads or, you know, meals at our table. We want to know if we can go to work and be able to reproduce ourselves just fine. And the past 4 years that's been increasingly difficult. So the ACP, like we've been started, or the American Communist Party for those that don't know, we were announced in July. We just had our first convention on October 12th in Chicago, the heartland, the middle of the country, USA. And yeah, we are here to really stand up and really remember who we are as American people, Trump country, and even the Democrats, people who support, you know, these social issues. We are one American people at the end of the day. We are working class people. And, you know, we should not be letting both of these capitalist parties, they're really just, you know, one party with two different names, as W.E.B. Du Bois just says. They're two, you know, but they are two of the same thing. And they're trying to pit us against one another by trying to manipulate our emotions or manipulate, you know, our sensibilities. And we're at the ACP. We don't believe in that. We won't allow that. So we've some of the, you know, recent things that we've been doing here, and at least in New York, but across the country as well. We've been going into parks and cleaning up our communities. I live in a big Democrat city, and I actually work in Richie Torres's district, one of the poorest districts in the entire country, even though it's New York City. And we've been going into these communities and cleaning up and talking to the people and seeing, you know, what their needs are. We've been doing food drives and winter clothing drives as we're approaching winter, and as we're seeing the country now at its highest level of people living on the streets, because it's actually safer to be on the street than it is to be in a shelter because they're so poorly funded. And we've also, so one of the big things that has been that happened also kind of in Trump country in Appalachia, which has been a historically neglected part of the U.S., was that there was Hurricane Helene that happened there. And as we know, FEMA, just as they did during Katrina, just as they did in Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, they massively failed at actually meeting what the people need. Same thing in Hawaii and Maui. They massively failed in helping with people. Entire towns were blown away. People lost everything. And instead of actually going there immediately to help those people, and they gave them a meager $750 per household, which most people haven't actually even seen. And they were turning away volunteers. But we went there, and here in New York, even though we're very far away, we collected funds and we went into the streets. I remember me personally flying around town and going into the bodegas, and the many bodegas who I have good connections with over Advocacy for Palestine, putting up flyers in there, and they allowed us to do it. And the people have donated in mass, because American people, whether in New York or wherever, we still care about each other, because at the end of the day, we are good people. And so we were able to send some money to our comrades in North Carolina, who were then able to disperse a lot of funds to people there. And if we want to talk about the women question or the women's issues, we're the only party that actually cares, because while the Democrats are just telling us about the right to abortion, our people in Newburgh were able to get some funds with what little we have in the past few months and give some donations to a women's shelter in Newburgh. So it's only the beginning, and it's very exciting to see where we're going, but I think that our work speaks for ourselves. We're here to unite the American people, the American working class as one. These elites that are trying to pit us apart, they don't represent us, all right? They're just here to tear us apart so that we can confuse us and continue to take our money to fund wars and genocide across the world. As long as we're fighting each other, then we don't get to unite and realize that they're the problem, and we're not going to allow that. So yeah, the American Communist Party, acp.us, if anyone's interested in learning about our program and our party information, it's very promising to see what we've got going on. And like I said, we're the patriotic Americans that are actually here, not the bourgeoisie, not those elites who like to wave American flags everywhere and use those emotions. They don't care about us. They don't represent us.
Precisely, Kayla, Gladys over here. I'm greeting you also from the studio, and I want to, first of all, tell you how much we appreciate what you do and the activism and the community work that you do right there. And you have all the reason and the truth on your side. Only the people saves the people. But I want to be over one of the key elements in this election. And as you were saying, Kamala Harris had been creating this persona and this identity that she is the women or the female candidate, that she is the force for women, okay, advocating for women's rights. But there you have Jill Stein, who has been running for 2 terms now, okay, for 2 elections right now. And she's also advocating for women's rights. And you have also Claudia de la Cruz, who is also a woman of color, not white woman. And she's coming from also a background of immigrant parents. She has the same, liabilities maybe in that bringing, and she's bringing that to the table. She's proposing that as her core, and she has been explaining that her campaign has no billionaire funding, that she's just relying in the people and in whatever she can find as support. So I think that the very existence of Claudia de la Cruz and Jill Stein demythifies Kamala Harris as the only women and the only women of color and the only women of color and of immigrant descent or, upbringing in these elections. So how this demystify Kamala and how this unveils the machine behind this political race?
Well, ultimately, it does go down to the fact that the United States does have a 2-party system that the elites, they don't want to get rid of, because why would they allow a path for somebody like Jill Stein or Claudia de la Cruz to be able to succeed power? They don't want to allow that. That's the same reason why they don't want to allow to get rid of electoral college. It doesn't benefit them, and they're not going to give us the keys to have access to power that they do. They want to keep the system as it is because it allows them to share power. It allows them to consolidate all the power into their one hand. So they're not going to allow anything else. And also with that, because these other candidates have very little shot of actually ever winning power, they also have very little shot of getting money and access and resources to put their names and their platforms out there. So while I said, it's more impactful, I think, in this election, considering that it's genocide that's been happening for the past year, that's been funded by our government. It does, in our belief, it is more impactful to not vote at all. But I do commend both these ladies, Jill Stein and Claudia de la Cruz, for what they've been doing and for the platform that they put forward. I actually did vote for Jill Stein in 2016. I was never going to vote for Hillary. But it's true what you say. The Democrats and the liberal NGO and the corporate media want to parade Kamala Harris as this, well, she's a woman of color and a child of immigrants, and she's a woman, as if that's supposed to move me at all. As a woman of color, as a mother who's from Peru, a family who's from Peru, that doesn't move me at all because she doesn't actually represent the interests of women. I want to be able to keep a roof over my head and not live paycheck to paycheck. I want to be able to know that my kids and my family members and I might not be sent to war. I would like my taxes to not go to kill and destroy women and children and men in Palestine. So, it doesn't matter to me whether she be black, white, Asian. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, Kamala Harris is anti-woman by virtue of her policies, by virtue of, standing for an oppressive system which seeks to conquer the rest of the world and start chaos the rest of the world. Nuclear war, I'm sorry, it's not pro-woman, right? We need a planet to live on. We need homes to have. We need security, and she just does not represent that. And quite frankly, I don't think Kamala Harris has any kind of platform or any kind of interest. She's more of a talking head for, her advisors, for the military-industrial complex. And it's very easy to try to woo people with the romanticism. Look, this is a woman of color and her beautiful background story. You can do it too. But really, she's just a head for the same old evil system, this imperialistic system that wants to seek destruction of the world to enrich themselves. So no, it doesn't move me at all.
Okay, Kayla, so I cannot avoid to ask you about the Palestinian cause, of course, and not only all the grand demonstrations that have been taking place and the way that that's affected the political scene in the United States, but also how those demonstrations and that topic has been a means of politicization for these grassroots organizations and efforts and a way to also interiorize the anti-imperialist sentiment within the United States. How do you view the effect that the demonstrations and, of course, the ongoing genocide that is going on in the Middle East right now has affected the political organizations and the efforts of the left in the United States to organize, to continue building, and to build wider bridges with the U.S. population?
I think it's done several things. It's shown just truly how despicable and criminal our government is. And for me and for a lot of others, that's even more of the reason why they're pushing this culture, these social identitarian things about Kamala Harris and about voting for the Democrats, because they have to reckon with the fact that they have funded a genocide. They have destroyed entire families, entire bloodlines, an entire nation. They're trying to cripple it. And so they really have to reckon with that. And then they have to use these other pathways of oh, well, she's a woman, so if you're going to vote for her, you got to care about women. Because they really have something that they're like staring them in the face, the elephant in the room. And that's not to say that the Republicans aren't going to continue on or maybe even be worse. But I think it really just exposed how criminal. I mean, more than ever, we have our TikToks, we have our phones where people can see like babies losing their heads. I mean, I don't want to go into it. Everyone, we are all very well aware. And if you're not, there's plenty of videos online. But it really has shocked a lot of people more than it ever has, especially in my generation and younger, and my mother's generation, who, an immigrant class who doesn't know much about the situation. They came from Peru. That wasn't something they spoke about or knew about. But now they're coming here in the age of the media to see that this is something that the United States is hand in hand with, and the Democrats, the party that parades itself as a champion of oppressed people, has completely abandoned Arab Americans and the Middle East entirely. So it's really interesting to see how there are new alliances also forming, even within the Republicans. There's splits happening within them. People who don't support a genocide in Israel, who don't support war crimes, and those who are, diehard loyal to Israel. But it also has raised the question within people of different political spectrums. Why is it that our government is so loyal to Israel that it would leave American journalists in Israeli prisons, that it would leave and abandon Lebanese Americans and not even help them evacuate, even though we're giving money to the country that's bombing them? And the same thing goes for Palestinians, that we've allowed and given money to this entity that is bombing our fellow citizens. Not to say that it's okay if there weren't American citizens, Palestinian Americans, but they are our citizens and we're not even speaking up for them. It's really shown the face of who the United States is. And it's been very interesting to see not even just how it's done, like change political organizing on the left, but also on the right. There's different political alignments and more questions being faced. And I think it's not going to go away. It's only going to get worse.
Wow, thank you, Kayla. I think you dropped an anti-imperialist seminar on us here. We couldn't be more grateful, and how refreshing as we talk about this elections, which really amount to nothing more than the status quo in the usual spectacle where we can't participate, and to see you with a keffiyeh on television talking about the true points that neither the liberals nor the conservatives would ever allow us to talk about in this period of McCarthyism 2.0, and to hear you talk about the American Communist Party and their new journal, Red America. It's quite a sweeping, inspiring vision. So here at TeleSUR, we thank you for your time, and we'll definitely be calling upon you in the near future, both in Spanish and English, for your refreshing insights.
Thank you. And yes, check out the acp.us to learn more about the work that we're doing. And we're going to keep going. The people of Palestine, for all freedom peoples in the world, including American people.
Thank you, Kayla.
Thank you, Kayla.